Welcome back guys. So in this video I will be providing you some details about the next public open beta build of AetherSX2 PS2 Android emulator. It is planned to be pushed to open testing later this week. Now Talred posted the details on AetherSX2 Patreon page. I'll give its link in the description. This is the page. Just like the previous updates, you can get it early from the archive, but no support is provided outside of the closed testing group. At the time of writing, the current build is Alpha 1058. So let's check out its features. Bug fixes for Mali GPUs in both Vulkan and OpenGL renderers, tested with Pixel 6. So Talred has finally purchased this device. Thanks to the patrons, we acquired a Pixel 6 for debugging the various issues specific to Mali GPUs. Now guys, even on my channel I often read comments from people complaining about having graphical bugs in their games. When I ask them about their device, it mostly ends up being a device with Mali GPU. Almost all of the known issues have been fixed. The only one we are currently still aware of is NFS Underground with the Vulkan renderer. Performance of Vulkan generally exceeds OpenGL ES. Now guys, these are APIs, Vulkan and OpenGL ES. OpenGL ES is the outdated API, Vulkan is the newer API, but usually the Vulkan drivers on Android ROMs are outdated. That's why on this emulator, when we use Vulkan to run some games on older devices, the games just crash. On Pixel 6, even heavy games such as Jack and Ratchet ran at full speed. Please note that if you have a device with an older Mali driver, example G52, G72, you may still have issues. So you need to have newer graphical drivers. Some of these drivers are so old that they do not even support the texture format we require, D32 Asset, in which case you will get an error message on startup. These drivers are simply too old and unfortunately we can never support them. So guys, it's as simple as that. If your phone is old, you are out of luck. Texture preloading performance improvements. Next feature. This is most noticeable for Mali GPUs. So this is going to be a big upgrade for people having phones with Mali GPUs. Where uploads mid render pass cripple performance, the option is now enabled by default, as there are only a handful of games where it causes performance regressions, mainly slow blind engine. Next feature, fix a bug where constant registers get incorrectly flushed. I have no idea what this means. We are not aware of any games which were directly affected by this, but there may be some. Next major feature guys, it's a big one. Add memory card creation activity, settings and per game memory card overrides. We can now create memory cards using the emulator itself up to 64 MB in size. However, the developer recommends sticking with 8 MB memory cards as they have the greatest compatibility. Now I already uploaded a tutorial video showing you how to expand the capacity of memory card from 8 MB to 64 MB. Using the emulator, it is never recommended to rely on the save states completely. I always recommend saving your game to the memory card. Memory card folders are also supported, where saves are stored as individual files in your storage volume instead of being packed together in a single image file. Now this is big again. The memory card file is just a single file. In that single file, there are save games of many different games, but with this update, saves will be stored as individual files. However, the developer still recommends using images for the best compatibility. Now guys, I have used the 64 MB memory card with a lot of games, more than 100. I did not run into any game that had compatibility issues with this high capacity card. The reason is that per game settings get applied after the game is loaded, not when the VM starts. Therefore, the memory card is switched and replugged on game load, which causes some games to get confused and think there is no card inserted, in which case you can safely ignore any message on boot and it should work as expected otherwise. A final note, since we keep getting asked this, no, memory cards will never be saved in a different location. This is a limitation of scope storage in Android 11 and above. It does not matter if you are using Android 10, we still have to follow the storage access framework APIs, which disallow access outside of the app's data directory. And then it's the memcards folder. Inside this folder, our save files will be present. I showed this when I created that memory card tutorial expanding its capacity. Moving on to the next feature, disable texture barriers by default on Adreno. Too many broken drivers. We have not actually seen a driver without issues somewhere. The drivers we developed against on a Snapdragon 870 works fine for blending in most games so long as geometry shaders are also disabled, but there are still some games where it breaks when you enable upscaling, Example Metal Gear Solid 2. To make things simpler, we just disable it by default now on Adreno. Snapdragon processors have Adreno GPUs, which means no software blending for Vulkan. You can either use GLES for the games which need it or force barriers on per game via advanced setting. Yeah, this setting can be accessed from the advanced tab. When using Vulkan in some games, I have observed graphical bugs, so I enable this setting. Yeah, so these are the advanced setting of AetherSX2 emulator. If you scroll down to the end, under the graphics driver section, here you can see disable texture barriers. With this setting enabled, it disables texture barriers and most software blending configurations may be needed for some buggy Vulkan drivers. Moving on, prevent Vulkan being used on old drivers which are missing required formats. As mentioned above, this applies to very old Mali drivers which are missing D32 asset support. The VM will refuse to start now and give an appropriate error message. Minor optimization to VU dispatch, 10% improvement in Ratchet. This one is pretty noticeable. The first level of Ratchet can be completed with almost no frame drops now on Snapdragon 870 processor, whereas previously it would drop to around 40 FPS at times. Average FPS improvement seem to be around 10% but will vary between games and devices, so expect some performance improvement in some games. Fix error reporting when loading incompatible save state. Older builds would simply kick you back to the game list without any indication as to why the save would not load. Now an appropriate error is reported. This update does not break saves from the current open testing build, but future builds will eventually. We do not recommend using save states for progress, only for completing tricky parts of games and for testing. Always save your game to memory card before updating. So for the next public beta update, the developer has assured us that our save states won't break, but this cannot be assured for the future builds. Always save your game to the memory card. It is also a massive source of complaints. The save state system is not broken. There was simply a version bump. We never guaranteed save state compatibility going forward, and this is true of all emulators. Please remember that this app is still in active development and nothing is guaranteed. This is true guys, even on my channel a lot of people were complaining that their older save states were not working with the current public beta build of AetherSX2 emulator. Save state compatibility is never guaranteed by the developer. Lastly, we have the save state manager. Previously there was no way of deleting, cleaning up old save states, particularly after the version bump. At around 8 to 15 MB each, this is the size of save state. Depending on the game, this can take up a considerable amount of space. I have tested around 100 games and save states are taking around 15 to 16 GB of space in my phone. The save state manager is a nice graphical tool available from the swipe out menu, which shows all save states on our device. We can load them directly from this activity or remove old save states which we no longer want. So with this new update, the emulator will be having a save state manager. Using it, we can access the save states, load the save states or simply delete them. I'll be honest guys, in a very short span of time, this emulator has improved vastly. I highly doubt that there will be any other PS2 Android emulator better than AetherSX2. So guys, that's it with the update details. I'll end the video here. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.